Welcome to the debate of English-only education versus bilingual education. On the English-only side, we have Courtney and Megan, and on the bilingual education side, we have Lauren and Allison. So with nearly 5 million English language learners in the United States, educating them in English and all other subjects is one of the biggest challenges in the U.S. How to educate them, whether through bilingual or English-only approaches, has created a large divide between educators. Today we will be hearing from educators of both sides, and they will argue why their approach is best. So first we will hear from the English-only side, Courtney and Megan.
English-only education is a form of education in which English-speaking students and non-English-speaking students are placed in the same classroom. All of the instruction is taught in the English language, which allows for the total immersion of the non-English-speaking students. There are also pull-out services for ELL students to better accommodate their needs. It has helped millions succeed and is most seamless way of introducing them into English education. Many bilingual education programs stop once the student reaches high school due to the difficulty of content. Children who are raised in a bilingual household risk not mastering either language because the languages are not consistent between home and school. English-only education allows for ELL students to learn English quicker because they are fully immersed into the language. They do not take the extra time to learn a second language. They just learn throughout class.
English-only education is also cheaper, so you don't need to train the teachers to be bilingual. Training teachers can be costly as well as extremely difficult. Also, schools do not need to purchase instructional materials in a second language. It also is socially, so English-only helps and forces students to learn the English language faster at a steady pace with their peers. It also allows them to be more social with others in the classroom. Children also do not learn the discourse and what is socially acceptable of each language, which is idioms and phrases, and socially they are left behind and on the outside of their peers. They are also able to speak the two languages fluently, which can improve their job status. It also is beneficial for testing and success, so all standardized testing are only administered in English. Students in the English-only classes have been outscoring students in bilingual classrooms. Also in the English-only classrooms, they are exposed to the language that they are being tested in, so they will have the ability to score higher. Although teachers modify their exams and quizzes, ultimately the students will still learn English in these types of classrooms. So for these reasons, we think that the English-only approach should be used in schools because it is reasonable, effective, and produces success for English language learners.
Those were some great points from the English-only approach. To restate it, they said that it is cheaper, it helps the students socially, and there has been high standardized test scores. Now we are going to hear from the bilingual education side from Lauren and Allison.
Bilingual education is education in an English language school system in which students with little fluency in English are taught in both their native language and English. There are two types of bilingual education models. The first type is transitional bilingual education, which involves education in a child's native language. The goal of transitional bilingual education is to help transition students into an English-only classroom as quickly as possible. This model ensures that students do not fall behind in content areas like mathematics, science, and social studies while they are learning English. The second type is dual language immersion, or two-way bilingual education. Students are taught language and content in two languages. This model integrates native English speakers and native speakers of another language for academic content instruction through both English and the partner language, beginning in elementary schools. The goal of this model is bilingualism, biliteracy, and cross-cultural competence.
These have many benefits on the brain of those who are in the program. These benefits include more success and engagement in the school. In studies covering many states and districts, they have found that dual language students have somewhat higher test scores and are happier in school. Attendance is better, behavior problems fewer, and parent involvement is much higher. There is more integration and diversity in the classroom. The classrooms are less segregated because the native English-speaking students are placed together with recent immigrants. The classrooms tend to be more socially economic balanced this way. This can improve students' sense of belonging and increase parent involvement in their children's education because families feel like their native or home language is being heard. Bilingual education opportunities encourage bilingual trigger students' concentration and reduce the amount of time required to strategic between task switches. A bilingual education can improve a child's working memory. This improvement provides for better processing capabilities when exposed to new sounds, new concepts, and new experiences. Students in bilingual education programs experience lower levels of anxiety, are less likely to experience a mental health disorder, and tend to have more friends when compared to single language students.
For these reasons, bilingual education is a method that should be used in all schools because of the growing number of students coming into the country that have little to no background knowledge of the English language. It also applies an extensive number of benefits that the method proves to have on students.
Okay, now the English-only side will have the opportunity to question the bilingual side.
Okay, bilingual education. The first question we have for you is, how will the school afford to train teachers and buy supplies in 2 languages?
Supplies in another language could be as simple as writing the Spanish translation of a word in marker on a piece of printer paper. Significant funding is not always necessary to provide efficient supplies for ELLs. Regarding teacher training, schools can hire teachers who are bilingual. The trained teachers and the dual language supplies would benefit all learners, not just ELLs. There are no disadvantages to spending money on educational factors that will help all types of learners while also exposing children to different cultures.
Okay, but how do you expect the English language learners to develop socially if they are not immersed in a classroom with English-speaking students?
In a dual language immersion, which is one type of bilingual education that we touched upon in our opening statement, the students are immersed in a classroom with other students who are learning language as well as students whose native language is English and are learning other languages. They have said being in the program helps students develop socially because they know more than one language and can identify with others who speak either one or the other languages. Students will feel more comfortable in the classroom if they're not thrown into a classroom that only speaks one language.
Okay, to follow up on that question, do you think students will be left out and not included with their peers in those kinds of classrooms?
Bilingual education promotes more interaction between students with different backgrounds because, like we just talked about, students are encouraged to interact with those around them that speak either language. Students love to be exposed to new things, and a new language will be exciting for them to learn. If an ELL student knows other ELL students in the building, they are able to confide in those students and share their experiences. The teachers of the ELL students will also ensure that these students are socializing with other students and will pair the ELL students up with English-speaking students.
But how does bilingual education break language barriers?
Bilingual education breaks barriers because it exposes English speakers to a different culture and language. If ELL students are taught through a bilingual education, they are able to break language barriers between teachers and parents in living, like parent-teacher conferences, assignments, and upcoming events. Students who are English speakers are also able to assist the students who are English language learners, and vice versa. This would break language barriers by combining culture and causing students to help each other and work together.
Okay, now that we have heard from them bilingual side, do you guys have any questions for the English-only side?
So now we have a few questions for you. Do you think that saving money is more important than a quality education for an ELL student?
Just because the students are placed in classrooms where the students only speak English does not mean that they won't have the support along the way. There are still pull-out services in which the students will get help from a specialist. The student will learn the language and have the opportunity to ask questions. Instead of having a lot of specialists for almost every classroom, there is 1 or 2 that can help the whole school and be just as effective. Students can also look to their peers in order to learn the language. Teachers use peer learning to teach subjects as well as vocabulary. Why not use it to teach ELL students as well? Using students to teach the language is just as effective, if not more, because the ELL student will be able to relate to their friends more than a specialist. By having 1 or 2 specialists on staff, peer tutoring, and the classroom teacher, the students are able to get the same amount of education at a less expensive rate. The English-only approach gives students a quality education while saving money in the end.
Okay, but studies have shown that students who speak 2 languages are more well-rounded. Do you believe that this is true?
Students that are able to speak 2 languages does make them more well-rounded. However, English-only education is not asking the students to abandon their native language and only speak English. Instead, students are just fully immersing themselves into the English language in order to learn English. At home, they are able to speak their native language. Just at school, they are asked to speak English. This way, they can speak English fluently as well as their native language. When going to job interviews or even higher education, students will be able to communicate easily. If students are going into businesses, English is usually the preferred language spoken. If they can fluently speak English, they will be able to communicate with more people, and then also with those with those who speak their native language. In the long run, this is more beneficial.
What is a way that you can aid to those who don't speak English at all?
There are millions of immigrants that migrated to America. In order to assimilate and prosper here, it is helpful to know the English language. By having students who use the only English language in the classroom, they will be encouraged to use it at home and can teach their parents and family members English. They can also help create programs and other helpful tools for those who don't speak English but would like to learn.
Now we're going to wrap this debate up by hearing the closing statements from both of our sides. So let's begin with our English-only side.
English-only education is the right choice for English language learners. In order to assimilate into this country and lead prosperous and good lives, they need an understanding of the English language. By having English only in the classroom, students will be fully immersed in the language that they are learning. This will push the students to learn the English language faster, and the students will be better connected to the English-speaking students in their classes. Although it is proven that people who speak multiple languages are said to be better well-rounded than the English-only approach is not asking students to completely abandon their native language. We know that students will not stop talking their native language at home, so it would be impossible to expect them to not talk their native language at all. Instead, students are fully immersing themselves in the English-only approach to learn English. This will be faster and more efficient because they will not be able to solely fall back on their native language. At school, they will be asked to speak English and their native language at home. Speaking English only at school will improve their communication more easily, like job interviews, excelling in school, and talking with peers. The English-only approach is helpful because a lot of programs may stop once the students enter high school or a vocational program.
One of the most important aspects for English only is it is more cost efficient. Schools have limited funding and will not be able to fund the program while paying teachers and buying supplies and resources. Teachers also need to go through a lot of training to be qualified to teach bilingual education. Along with the cost of the training, teachers also need to be able to find the time to do so. Teachers are busy with making lessons, teaching students, and making sure all of the students are cared for. It would be nearly impossible for them to fit in bilingual education into their busy schedule. We believe that English only is the only way to go for many reasons. English only is more cost efficient and better for students. This approach will push students more and give them quicker access to learning English. Why we shouldn't be using bilingual education is because bilingual education reduces to focus on other things. There's so much focus on learning a new language, but what about the other subjects and topics the student should be learning? Some children may not respond well to learning another language, and it might make them feel rejected to learning in school as a whole.
That was a very interesting closing statement. Now we'll hear from the bilingual side.
Bilingual education is the right choice for English language learners as well as students whose native language is English. As an educator, we want all our students to do the best they can, and having a bilingual education allows them to academically achieve at higher levels. It benefits both types of students by opening up children to different cultures and widening their horizons. It also benefits students because it provides them with more opportunities for success and engagement in school, encourages brain growth and triggers student concentration, improves their working memory, which provides for better processing capabilities when learning new information, can improve mental health and social skills, and there are more integration and diversity in the classroom.
Along with this, bilingual education is the most effective and right choice for many reasons. Bilingual education breaks language barriers because it exposes English speakers to different cultures and languages. This elimination of language barriers can prepare students from a young age for their later life. Another reason that bilingual education is better is that ELL students' vocabulary needs to be developed. However, it is hard to do so using an unknown language. For this reason, it is important to use the students' native language in the classroom. In early stages of learning, ELLs can make progress that is equal to English speakers, but as content becomes more challenging, there is a need for instructional modifications. ELL students need to feel a sense of home by using text with stories or themes from their students' own culture. These students also need the use of their primary language for clarification and explanation of lessons, so they do not fall too far behind with directions and the class as a whole.
Okay, so both the bilingual education and English only sides have made some excellent points. So thank you, Courtney and Megan, on the English only side, and Lauren and Allison on our bilingual side. Because of the importance of giving ELL students a quality education, this is a very important topic that we should continue researching. Thank you for listening, and I hope this debate has got you thinking about the best way to educate ELL students.
Bye!
Action! Welcome to this. Now let's see if you can hear me. Hello.
Sophia,
Guys, I
I'm
know I
so
told her
bad.